Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our today's tutorial. Today we are talking about the RRU 1400. And may you know, this reader is already existing and we are offering for a while. But now we have a new version. The difference between the old version and the new version are the antenna connectors. Up to now, we have this so-called FAKRA connector with this reader. And from now on, we will have also SMA connector, which is maybe a little bit more known for the installers than the FAKRA connectors. So let's start. Here you see our RRU 1400. This is the basic starting reader. We have a 4-port reader with a very powerful RF front end and a lot of things which you may know from the past. This reader is now available also with an SMA connector. So up to now, you have these readers with FAKRA connector with the ordering number 520.10.551 for the ETSI version and 552 for the FCC version. Now, when you are more familiar with SMA connector and you want to have the reader also as an SMA reader for these 4 antenna ports, then you can order the reader with a 520.10.719, which is the ETSI version, and 520.10.720 for the FCC version. The same we have, of course, also for the ARU reader, ARU 2400 reader. This reader has 1 integrated antenna and 3 external antenna ports. With the 348 as an ordering number, we have it as FAKRA connectors for the ETSI version, 664 for the FCC version, and now with a 721 as an SMA version for the ETSI and a 722 for the FCC version. How does it look like? So you can see here the both reader. On top is the RRU 1400 with a so-called FAKRA connector, a very robust connector. You can click it. So for installation of a lot of antennas, it's an advantage because you can connect it very fast and very sure that it's really connected. And below you see the SMA connector. A well-known connector is a screwed connector. You can screw the cable and connect up to 4 antennas with both readers, with the FAKRA cable or with the SMA cable. All the other connectors are still the same. So you see the power connector is still the DC block. We have the RJ45 for the network, and we have the same GPO cables, JPO sockets, which we have for both readers. Of course, the same what we have here for the RRU 1400. We have for the ARU for the antenna integrated reader 2400 in the same way. With this reader, we have, of course, only 3 external ports because 1 antenna is integrated. With the next slides, we give you some advice how to handle such a reader from unboxing. This means you take you get the reader from stock, you have it on your desk, and you can do the first installation. So what I tell you now for the 1400 is the same for all other Kathrein readers. Maybe the connectors are a little bit different or the position of the connectors are different, but the procedure is still the same. First of all, you have to connect the power supply. And here you have several options. You can use the DC power supply. Here with the RRU 1400 is a DC block connector. You can connect from 10 to 30 volts. You can use a Kathrein power supply unit. You can use any other power supply unit in this range from 10 to 30 volts. Or you can use a PoE connection. If your network is able to supply also power by power over Ethernet, PoE, then you can use it. Please keep in mind that the RRU 1400 you can run with PoE, also the ARU 2400 with PoE. For all the other Kathrein readers, you have to use PoE plus because of the higher power consumption. But here we can use a PoE, and for the other readers, you have to use a PoE plus. Please select the suitable PoE injector or PoE power supply unit. And finally, you can use both. You can do a DC supply and you can do a PoE supply in parallel, inclusive redundancy. This means you can still keep the reader powered also if you remove one of these cables. The next thing is the network connection, and as I said already before, we have an RJ45 and standard connector which you can connect directly to the reader. In our example, we have connected two antennas, two mid-range antennas, the MRR 100. And if this is done and the antennas are connected, the hardware connection is done and we can switch to the software. To test and parameterize, we have our so-called reader start software for all our readers. This is software where you can address the reader, you can change the data, you can address the parameters, you can test all the reader, and I will show you in the next steps how to start with the software up to the first read result with the reader. So you can see with this link here below, you can download the software from our Kathrein webpage. You can install on your laptop. And when you have connected, the first you have to do is search for readers. This means you can check on your network how many readers are connected, how many readers are available. In our example, we have only the RRU 1400. And then you see with the green bar, both IP addresses are available and are possible. We have the IPv4 address. The default is 192.168.0.1. And we have the IPv6 address. And both have a green bar. This means both are reachable. You see also that we have for the IPv4 the subnet mask available, the gateway available, which can be selected and can be installed. For IPv4, you can also select DHCP. This means dynamical handling of the IP address. If you want to select this, please connect first manually, then switch on, and from the next starting point on, the reader will get some dynamical IP addresses directly from the switching unit or from the network. One additional thing you see on the left is this Ethernet symbol and the star on the side. This means this is my favorite reader. You can select this by clicking with the mouse, pressing the right mouse button, and then you see make this reader to a favorite, and then this reader is always at the first position, especially when you have a lot of readers to control and you want to have one unit which you have to take care for, then you can select as a favorite. Otherwise, it will be sorted in the range of the IP addresses. So 0.1 is the first, 0.2 would be the next, and so on and so on. Okay. If this is done, we are ready for connecting. Then we press connect. And from this point on, we will have this information bar. This gives an advice that you as a user is responsible for the use of the reader. This means you have to take care that the RF settings are correct, that the right frequency is used, that the right region is used, that the output power is in the right value. And with the next slide, I give you some hint how to control this, how to test this. First of all, here you have to select the region or the country profile. We have here with the 1400 the two options ETSI and ETSI upper band. ETSI means the frequency range 865 to 868, and ETSI upper band is 915 to 921 megahertz. So, for example, in Europe, ETSI upper band is possible, but in Germany, unfortunately, ETSI upper band is not allowed. So if I select now ETSI upper band, I will have problems because these frequencies are already booked from the railway, from military, and if I have an interference with them, they will not be happy with me. So that's why take care and select the ETSI upper band as the ETSI upper band only in regions, only in countries where ETSI upper band is allowed. Here we select now ETSI, press OK, and then we can select the application. This is the next point, and we have to choose of a dynamical application, a static application, or we can select the settings for direction detection. Direction detection, where we get not only the read results, we get also the information was an ingoing or outgoing process. This you can do with an additional software, for example, with our crosstalk software. We keep it simple and we select only dynamical tags, and we select this button. The next you have to you type in is the tag count, so how many tags can be in the field at the same time. I have chosen here 52. You see red marked in this area. And below you see the initial Q value. So the initial Q value is a dynamic value. This means 2 by the value, 2 by 6 is 64, 2 by 5 is 32. So the next full number is 64, and that's why the initial Q value is 6. If this is set, please press apply on the right or lower corner. And then you can switch to the expert settings 1. The expert settings 1 gives you all the information about how many antennas are connected, what the system parameters are. And here we start on the left with this sliders, the output power. We adjusted to 24 dBm for both antennas. Yeah, you see in the middle the ERP, effective radiated power. You may know that in Europe, maximum power of 33 dBm is allowed. So we can increase if it's necessary for the application, but not more than 33 dBm. That this is be protected by the reader, you have to set the cable attenuation. Yeah, so select from the data sheet, and this is a value within 0.25 dB steps, so you can really fine adjust the cable attenuation. For the Kathrein antennas, it's easy. You can select the antennas by name. For example, in our example, we have the mid-range antenna 100 degree. And if you have an unknown antenna, it's enough to take the data sheet and select the antenna gain. And finally, the reader will be, based on this data, select the port power to have this radiated power of 24 dBm. If you increase the power from a certain point on, the port power will not increase anymore, because more than 33 dBm are not allowed. Especially if you have antennas with a high gain, there is a limitation, and we take care that this limit of 33 dBm is not broken. Finally, we have here the communication standard with this ETSI, which we have selected before. And we have here for the communication profile is a smart reader mode. I have already explained in one of my last videos what the smart reader mode is. This is a mode where we combine a very sensitive profile with a very fast profile to read all text in the shortest possible times, as many as possible. And finally, we have here selection parameters. This means the initial Q value, which you have learned before, with 6, and all the other parameters are selected here. If this is done, you press in the right upper corner of the set, and then the reader is addressed to this. And from now on, each time when you send out a read command, the reader will use these parameters for reading. When you switch to basic reading, when you press start, the start button, then you will get this result, for example. In this case, we have here 9 transponders in front of the antennas. The EPC length for each of them is 96 bits. The EPC itself, you can see here in the list. And it will be highlighted in green that it's still active, it will be still written. If some texts are going out of the field, the color will change from green to red. We have the information on which port we can read the transponder. You see the first 5 transponders will be read on antenna number 1, antenna port number 1, and the other 4 on antenna port number 2. So if I move now from antenna number 1 and take to number 2, we will have 2 entry lines, one for the antenna port number 1, which become red, and a second one for the antenna port number 2, which become green. We have the RSSI level. This gives you the information how good is the signal, how good is the received signal strength, and this gives you how good the values are. So we have values above 100. The values start from around about 50, 60, and it will be increased. The closer you come to the antenna, the better the reception is for the transponder. And then you can compare to have a reliable result how close you have to be at the antenna, or in the other way, how much you have to increase the power to catch the transponders. The next 2 numbers gives you the information how often you have tried to read, how often the reader has tried to read, and how often he was successfully. So in our example, the cycles mean we have tried 95 times, and you have also been successful 95 times. This gives you a feedback of 100%. Here you can do a kind of statistic and see, so if you have only a value about 40 to 50%, then the read result is only by 50%, or maybe you have to increase your power or to adjust your application. Finally, we have the time steps. So we see when it has read the transponder the first time, when we have read the transponder the last time, and then we can combine this. By the way, if there's a setting called transmit select if no filter is on, and sometimes it could happen that the switch, the parameter is switched off, and then you read only once. This is helpful for the final application because sometimes it's enough to read a transponder once to know now it's in the field and now it's arrived. And you can reduce the number of communication bits. If you want to read it each time, then please switch on this transmit select if no filter is on, and then you read it every time when a new inventory has been started. Of course, it's not easy to keep all these parameters in mind, and that's why we have the possibility to save to file. This means in this menu, in this basic reading menu, we have these options and save to file button. If this is activated and you start reading, from this point on, all the data will be stored in a CSV file, and then you can do the statistics afterwards. This means when we press with the right mouse button on top of this text, you see an possible entry of open file and delete file. So at the beginning of a test, you can delete older files. Don't care about this. And when you have select this save to file button, you have stored your data, then you can open the file and it will look like this. This is an Excel table where you see on the first column the length of the EPC. Here again, 96-bit. You see the EPC itself. We see the port number. We see the RSSI level. We see the timestamp. And in this case, each timestamp of each reads. This means when we have, for example, 95 reads for this transponder, then in this list we have also 95 entries, and we can see each of this timestamp for itself. From this point on, you can see how precise is your application. Do you fulfill all the requirements for the application? If yes, everything is fine, you can store the parameters and you can finish. If the read range is too weak, if the read range is too big, then you go back to expert settings 1. You adjust especially the power, to increase the power, to reduce the power, to get the right read result, store the parameters, store this change of level, go back to basic reading, make a second test, then you can compare both. You can say, okay, how big is my success rate, how good is my read result, and then you can compare this, and so you can step by step adjust your application and find out what are the best settings. Then you store down, and then from this point on, it's enough to send one read command from your application software, and the result will be similar like the things you see here in my screen. Finally, one word to the FAKRA connectors, because these connectors are also well known, but some suppliers, some partners have problem to get the right cables. But the FAKRA cables are very tricky, so it's connected by a click, but to remove it, it's a little bit difficult. Very often the guys try to press the colored bar here in my example, the purple part of the connector, but this is only cosmetics. On the end of the connector, there is a small notch. I have marked it with a red bar, and if you press here with a finger only this part of the connector, then you can also remove the FAKRA connector very easily. Okay, many thanks for your attention. I hope you have enjoyed the presentation and you have found some interesting, helpful information for you. Please give me a feedback if you missed something or if you want to have more details about some of these figures I explained. Many thanks for your time and see you soon. Bye-bye.